everybody, Joe Roberts, 1WineDude.com, here in my messy office. And I want to talk a little bit about wine certifications today in the Going Pro context. Mostly because it's been a kind of a weird couple weeks. I've received a lot of questions about certifications and also gotten a couple discussions on Twitter about it. So I thought I'd use this little forum to give you my thoughts on that. Okay. And I'm not going to be talking about whether or not people who write about wine should be certified in any way, because there really is no gatekeeping for that. Enobites blog had a great post on that with tons of comments, like almost 200 comments on that. So really you should just check that out for that discussion. This is a little bit different. I really want to talk about the value of certifications around wine for people who are thinking about getting in the business or getting serious about blogging about wine or writing about wine. So it's not about the craft of writing. It's about understanding your topic. Okay. And there really are a couple benefits to certifications. And I guess I'll preface this by saying I'm a big fan of them. I have a few, and obviously I wouldn't have them if I didn't, somehow advocate them, I guess. But there's a couple advantages. The first is that you learn. You learn, in some cases, very deeply about aspects of the topic of wine. It doesn't trump experience. So certainly you can taste and evaluate and talk about wine, do whatever you want without it. But in order to get true understanding in any topic, you want to go as deep as you can. Certifications help force you to go deep. So it's the biggest single benefit is that you learn. In the case of some certifications like the Wine Spirits Education Trust out of England, which I'll talk about in a couple minutes, they actually also teach you a methodology for tasting. That's extremely important, I think, in getting a handle on a wine's non-subjective elements, if that's a word I just made up, non-subjective. Scrabble challenge. And what I mean are things like the clarity, how to evaluate the color, how to tell if there are faults, what aspects to look for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the things that kind of underlie the wine, sort of tell you when you taste it, how well it was made, how well it was stored, those types of things. They're less subjective. They're far less subjective than the types of fruits and aromas that you get out of a wine, and the assessment of the quality level of the wine. So some of the certifications give you a pretty solid bedrock. And the only other way to get that bedrock is to taste a shitload of wine. And I mean volumes that most of us are not exposed to every day. Okay, so certifications can definitely help you there. The second benefit of the certifications is networking. So if you're getting a certification from a really reputable source, and I think there are really only 3 of those that are widely recognized anyway, and I'll get into that in a couple minutes. If you get a certification from one of those groups, it's widely recognized, it's naturally attracting folks who are passionate about the subject, who are in the industries, et cetera, et cetera. And you get to network with those folks, and you learn a ton by that networking. I've made some great friends. I've learned an amazing amount, nowhere near what I would have learned by just taking the certs, from the connections that I've made in those organizations. So that is the other really big benefit. The third, and this is really ancillary, is that it can be potentially a differentiator for you, especially if you're online, you're talking about wine. There's a huge din of the sound of thousands and thousands of wine blogs, talking. Now, all that's great, but if you want to get a little bit more serious about it and you want to differentiate yourself, the certifications from reputable sources can at least help tell people that you might know what you're talking about. And certainly there's a case to be made that some of the certifications are, people might use them for instant credibility, but that doesn't last very long online because you still have to be delivering great content. And so the certifications can only ever really support that. One thing I don't like is when people dismiss the certifications. They just, like right from the start, full stop. Hey, they're all meaningless except for Master Sommelier, except for Master of Wine. That's definitely not the case. I would say the majority of people who say that very likely don't have certifications or haven't tried to take them because they're not easy. Or those people, maybe they're super smart and they could just walk in there and bam, and pass these exams. I certainly couldn't have done that. I needed a lot of prep time, a lot of work. But I loved the topic, so it was fun. Hence back to number one, which is source of learning. In terms of the certifications that are out there are three that are widely recognized, and by that I mean have some worldwide credibility. They have there's some overlap, actually quite a bit in some cases, but they're fairly distinct in how they present themselves. The first is around service, and that's the wine service at a restaurant, sommeliers. That's the quartermaster sommeliers. Getting an MS is extremely difficult to do, and that's why people who get MS sort of qualifications, you typically see them in the beverage industry or in the restaurant industry as beverage directors. I've had dinner with many in MS. Those people absolutely know their shiz. They are unbelievable to talk to. But the focus really is on service and funneling that information to create programs that give the best wine options for a restaurant chain or the best service direction for a restaurant, etc. when it comes to beverages. The second is the Society of Wine Educators. They're based out of D.C. in the U.S. They're gaining some international notoriety. They have some really impressive people who take part in their events and are members of the society. I think Mary Ewing Mulligan, who co-wrote the Wine for Dummies book, a great book, great intro to wine. She's amazing. She knows what she's talking about. And she's a frequent speaker at the events the society holds every year at their conferences. So I don't think a person like that would associate herself with a group that had no value. Okay, they're focused on education. So the idea is leading seminars, teaching classes, that sort of thing. So that one's really focused on an education standpoint. So it's the questions in their levels of certification, of which there are two, it's really about deep knowledge. So you get into geography, topics like science of wine, etc. So it's meant to really underpin things like, you say, oh, Oregon Pinot Noir is like this and has these aspects. You've got just a boatload of facts and information that you've studied underneath that to support what you're saying. The last is the Wine Spirits Education Trust. They're based out of England, and they're basically, I guess you could call them a feeder school for the Masters of Wine program. And most everyone's heard about the Master of Wine program. That's all around wine industry, business, production, and region and evaluation. WSET probably has the biggest focus on wine evaluation, which I think makes their advanced certification particularly valuable. Sure, you can say, I know what I like, and I know what I can pick out in a wine, and that's good enough. I think that is good enough for the majority of wine blogs and wine writing, but if you really want to taste wine critically, you got to learn the rules before you can break them. And the WSET will absolutely teach you the rules. I mean, it's with famous English precision. They'll really drill that stuff into you. And of course, the DWS, the Diploma Wine Spirits, is their highest level. It's pretty much a prereq now for the Master of Wine, for those that are interested. Although I'm sure if you're a famous wine person, you will get grandfathered in. But if you're a famous wine person, your grandfather would have probably already. Okay. So those are the three. There are some distinct differences. What do I recommend for people? I don't know, man. It depends on what you want to do. For me, I thought Society of Wine Educators was a really good one. WSET is the one I probably learned the most from. It's probably the most difficult to obtain, but that one comes into play really when I'm evaluating wine and when I'm researching wine for articles. The Society of Wine Educators stuff really comes into play in how I try to present that information to the general public on my blog. So they've both been valuable. I did not get the certifications thinking that I would use them to help differentiate myself on the blog. Actually, it was my wife's idea because she thought if I got certifications, I might be able to make some money someday, teaching classes or doing something with this stuff. It turned out that it did help me, and that's sort of why I have, I don't know if you call it a little tribute to them or whatever, in the header of my blog. Obviously, when somebody comes to your website and your wine blog, whatever, or your article, you have to deliver the goods. I mean, you have to give them the best content that you can. That's always the best strategy. You don't need a certification for that. In my case, the certifications are there just hoping that it's just a little bit extra thing, and somebody looks at this, if they're asking themselves, well, why should I listen to this guy? They can see that and say, okay, well, he's taking the time to do this stuff. It's probably not easy to get, so he actually took the time to study and do it. Hopefully that's a differentiator, but by no means the most important thing. So if you're, the final word on it, I guess, is if you want a cert, go get it. You're going to learn a ton. You're going to network. It'll probably be a great experience. Don't expect to waltz in and pass, because these are not easy. Really go for the process. Go for the learning. Don't go for the end result. You might talk about in your blog, you might mention the fact that you are WSET certified or whatever on your blog, but you're probably not going to go around wearing little pins that they give you, unless you're in the industry. You're really using it as a means to get deeper into the topic that you love, and that's really where the certifications help you out. Anyway, hope this was helpful. If you disagree, rake me over the coals in the comments. That's cool. And hope everybody's well next time. Cheers.